Hello, I'm Blue, and in today's video, I'll be showing you my art process from sketch to rendering to the final touches. My approach is very loose, and at times I like to change things up, so I don't always do like exactly what I show here. Sometimes I do like different things, or I follow a different process. I like to play around with it, since having a set way of doing things can be a bit stressful. Anyways, I'll have the PSD file linked down below if you'd like to download it and check out the layers and like follow along with what I'm doing or see an example of how I do things. Yeah, that will be linked down in the description. Okay, real quick, this whole video was done on the Artist 22 Plus by xppen. xppen sent me the tablet to give it a try, which is so cool, oh my goodness. So I'll do a small unboxing so you can see what it looks like, and then I'll tell you a little bit about the tablet. When I opened it first, I was like so shocked because of the size. I've never drawn on such a big tablet before, and like just seeing this thing, I was like, this thing is a monster. It's a beast, dude. And then double shock, I found out that it has a wireless shortcut remote inside the box. That's so cool. Since the tablet doesn't have any shortcuts, xppen sends like this little guy with it. So cool, oh my god, I've always wanted one of these. It's basically shortcuts that you hold in your hand that connects with like Bluetooth. But I'll explain it a bit later in detail. It comes with lots of foam so the tablet doesn't break. Inside that box is this little box with all the necessities. It's got a pen with nibs. The pen is 16K pressure sensitivity. It comes with a glove. It comes with, I don't know what the hell this was. I couldn't figure it out. It comes with a HDMI and a USB Type-C, and then the power cable. The power cable's outlets can be changed depending on the country. The pen is very light and comfortable to hold. It comes with 2 buttons and an eraser in the back. Also don't need to worry about charging it. The 16K pressure sensitivity is definitely noticeable compared to like my older tablets that had but like 2K or 4K. So now onto the wireless shortcut remote. This is basically shortcuts that you can hold in your hand. In the box comes with like this little Bluetooth guy and then the charging cable. You put the Bluetooth USB into the computer and then it just connects. It's really simple. So basically you have like a little zooming bar or a brush changer, and then you just link the buttons up to the shortcuts in your art program. It's really cool and so useful, and I've been using it like non-stop. The tablet has a pre-installed adjustable stand. And here you get to see me do something very, very stupid. I removed the screen protector and not the plastic in the front. It's very cringe watching me pull this off here, and I'm still dying rewatching it now. So I spent like 5 hours trying to stick it back on. So like later you see when I show an example of the tablet, it's got little air bubbles on it. That's 100% my fault for not reading the little piece of plastic at the top. So don't make the same mistake as me. Please read the instructions. The screen resolution is 1080 by 920, so it's not the highest resolution ever, but I know a lot of people would rather prefer a high resolution for such a big screen, so just keep that in mind that it is not a 2.5K or 4K screen if you're looking at getting this tablet. For me, it doesn't bother me. I like the way it is. The colors are also pretty good. The colors are adjustable on the xppen app, like most tablets. Colors aren't perfect, but they're pretty good. So overall, I think it's a great tablet for the price that it is. It's got so many good features, and if you're looking to get into like a bigger Cintiq but you don't want to spend like thousands, like this is a really good tablet to like start off with to see if you like it. I definitely really like it. I think I'll probably use this tablet as my main art tablet for a very long time. So thank you again to xppen for letting me try out the Artist 22 Plus. I will have it linked in the description if you'd like to check it out. Slight side note, if you want to get into digital art and you want to get yourself a Cintiq or drawing tablet, xppen has really good priced ones, so not that scary of a purchase if you would just like to see if you like it. So I definitely recommend going through their website and checking out the other tablets they have to offer. Okay, side note over, back to the video. So to get started, the first thing that I do is the sketch. For sketching, I use a soft round brush, which I'll have linked in the description, for both Clip Studio Paint and Procreate, but any soft brush will do. What I look for a sketching brush is something that doesn't have a lot of pressure sensitivity. The harder you press, the darker it is, and the lighter you press, the lighter it is. I'm looking for something with a lot more transparency, kind of like the example I'm showing you here. So I understand that the sketch can be the most intimidating part, as it serves as the building blocks for the entire piece. When I first started art, I really hated the sketching part and I really just wanted to get into the coloring. And now it's kind of switched. I love doodling a lot more than what I like actually finishing pieces, which is very evident with like the tens of thousands of whips I have in my files. So the first sketch is very messy outline of the drawing. I will create a couple of these to test out different compositions and ideas that I have. This process is called thumbnailing, by the way. When you do thumbnails, it helps you pick out the best ideas if you have like a range of different compositions or poses that you can think of for the idea you're trying to draw. Like I had quite a few thumbnails that I did for Astarion of different poses. I knew I did want to have his teeth showing, but I didn't know which pose exactly I wanted to have his teeth showing. So you can see like here is like a couple of examples of the thumbnails that I had for this original sketch. And I ended up really liking this pose because it was simple, but it also had a lot of sass and body language, which I thought would suit his character. So for the composition, I focus a lot on 3-point composition or triangle composition. This usually involves a main focus point and then 2 other points that to the side of like the main focus point. So you want your eyes to run from like the top to the bottom or bottom to the top and just like basically connect these like 3 points. For me, a lot of the time the main focus is the face, and then sometimes I would do like the main focus be like a hand and then it leads to the face. However, there are many different composition styles you can use other than just this one. So like here's like a list of them. I don't really use these because I don't know how to use these. I just normally stick with the triangle. So I use a thumbnail that I picked as reference to start redrawing the pose. Obviously the thumbnail is really messy and has a lot of anatomy mistakes, so with the sketch I'm trying to fix that. Sometimes rather than redrawing it, I will just clean up the sketch and then I will use this cleaned up sketch as line art. This is what I do 99% of the time. Just this time I felt like the sketch was a bit too messy for me to actually go in and clean it up. So that's why I'm doing this cleaner sketch to the side. So something I do is I make a copy of the sketch and then I edit on this copy layer. So I have the original sketch below so I can go back and check if I like the changes that I've made. And I will do this throughout the whole sketching process. I'll keep making new copies of the sketch that I'm editing. So if I change the pose or maybe the expression or the hand positions, I will make a copy, do the changes, and then check back with the original to see if I like the changes that I've made. I hope this makes sense. If you do check out the PSD file, you'll see that there are many copies of the sketch, and yeah, that's what that is. Since I'm not a very big fan of line art, my process involves cleaning up the sketch by erasing and redrawing parts. So this is basically what I do, like the example on the screen. At times I find that the sketch captures a more natural flow than if I did like final line art. Sometimes the final line art can be a little bit awkward or stiff for me, and I don't really like doing line art that much. The process isn't as like satisfying. That's why I tend to focus on refining the sketch rather than going through the traditional line art process. And plus I do render and paint all my pieces, so the sketch doesn't have to be super clean when I go into the coloring phase, because I'll just go in and clean it up in the later process of rendering. I have a copy of the original sketch underneath, and I've turned down the transparency on that layer so I can still have like the basic form while I'm like changing the line art or sketch. You can paint just about any type of sketch, but I prefer having some of the lines be transparent and some of them be darker, along with some of the lines being thicker and then thinner, so lots of line weight. The reason for this is when you add the base colors, if the line art is slightly transparent, the line art will take on the base color a lot more easier. And for my rendering process, I really like to have a lot of colors that I can color pick from, and if the line art has like interesting colors, I will use that in the rendering phase. But I will touch on that some other time. After I'm satisfied with the sketch or line art, I move on to adding the base colors. I start by coloring it in grey first. A lot of people ask why I do this. It's so I can use a clipping mask on top of the grey base layer. Using a clipping mask on top of the grey base color allows you to add multiple layers of color or effect while staying within the boundaries of your initial grey base layer. This helps with organization and control of like the colors. It also saves a lot of time. It means you're not going to go over the original base colors like lines. You can have multiple clipping masks to the layer, so you can have the hair, the eyes, the skin color all on separate layers but clipped to the same base. It's super helpful, and it saves so much time with coloring and keeping things organized. In the PSD, that's what these little red layers are. If you like look through them, you'll see they're all clipped to the same grey base color. While laying out the base colors, I already have a small idea of the colors I'd like to use. So for this piece, I really wanted more red, since Astarion is like a vampire, so I really wanted more blood-like vibes, I guess. But if you're not sure about the colors, you can use the same thumbnailing process that we did at the start by making a copy of the line art or sketch, and then just going under and making quick color changes so you can do different color palettes and then decide which one you like the most. So as I'm adding the base colors, I am also adding the shading colors. For the shading, I'm making use of harmonizing colors. This is a color theory. I went over color theories and color palettes in this video, so if you'd like more information about like harmonizing colors or different color schemes that you can use, you can check out this one. But essentially, it involves placing colors next to each other on the color wheel and adjusting the saturation either up or down until they look nice. So the colors next to each other on the color wheel harmonize and they will always look nice with each other. So I try and use this when I'm adding shading. Also trying to keep in mind that I'm sticking with a red hue for this piece, so all the harmonizing colors next to the red. So this phase is very messy. I'm not too worried about having the piece look clean because I'm going to go in and like clean it up later. What I am focusing on is to make sure that the lighting and shading looks good, the colors match together, and the values are correct. I also make extensive use of layer color blending modes with the airbrush, such as overlay layers or multiply layers. I incorporate these in this phase so that when I go into render, there are many different colors for me to choose from. I go in and I edit my colors in this phase a lot. So what I do is I open up the hue and saturation shifter and I play around with them until I'm satisfied with how it looks. Additionally, I make use of gradient maps, which are layer editors that allow you to map out the colors in a piece. Sometimes the original colors just don't look good and you have to go in and edit. I did want that red hue to be more prominent in this, so I went in and I added a dark multiply layer. Then I just played with the opacity until I liked the way the colors kind of like blended in with each other. Additionally, I set the line art layer to multiply, and using a clipping mask on top, I recolor it to suit the base layer. I try not to get rid of all the dark colors while doing this. So now we can get into rendering. The brush I use for rendering is the same as I use for sketching. It's the Soul brush. I have both Clip Studio Paint and Procreate linked down in the description. So you can use any brush as long as it reaches these criteria. It has transparency to it. The harder you press, the darker it is. The lighter you press, the lighter it is. And it doesn't have a lot of pressure sensitivity. The brush should also have little to no blending at all, so it should not mix with the colors below it. I will go in depth in a later video on how I render things. Once I'm satisfied with the colors, I merge all the layers down into one, and then I make a copy of this layer, so I have two of the same image just flattened. So the bottom layer is the layer that I'll be referencing back to. I didn't make any changes on this one, and then the top layer is the one I render on. So I can check back and forth between the original and like what I'm editing. So if I've made a mistake or I've changed something in the rendering that I didn't like, I can reference back to the sketch and then fix whatever mistake I've made with the rendering. This also allows me to compare the current process with the starting process. It is also very satisfying to go back between rendered and unrendered and see how far you've come. So at this point I address any mistakes that I've noticed. For instance, if the pose appears flat, I use the liquify tool to adjust proportion, size and overall composition. referring back to the original sketch to maintain consistency. Finally, in the rendering phase, I won't go into detail here as I plan to cover it in a full video. However, I have an older video about my rendering process here. Essentially, in a short explanation, it involves color picking an object's color and then cleaning it up with like the color that you just picked up, so the background color or the base color, and then just going in and cleaning up everything. So his face, his eyes, you can see me like color picking and cleaning up like here. In the rendering video, I will go into more detail on like how I'm using the brush to render and like how I'm adding the texture or how I'm deciding where to add the texture. If you're interested to see how I painted this in a slower version, I will have the full rendering video up on my Patreon. It will be sped up just a little bit and it will have everything in it. So not a lot of cuts, and it's like the full process basically. That will be linked in the description if you're interested in watching that. I didn't want to put the full process here because the video would be way too long for that, so this is sped up quite a bit. Yeah. So for how long this took me, this piece took me about 4 hours to complete with like the sketch and like base colors and rendering. Though I was playing Baldur's Gate while I was drawing this, so there was lots of breaks between, so in full it was about 6 hours. I do some videos on my channel for more in-depth explanation of some of the things I did here. So I have like a video on anatomy if you're curious on how I drew the anatomy in this video. I have, for like the anatomy, there's like face proportions and facial features and also just basic body anatomy. Then I also have videos on how I pick colors and color theories. I actually have 2 of those videos, so like there are different styles that I use if you want to check those out too. I also have a lighting tutorial, which is how I did the lighting in this piece. In the future, like I said, I plan to do an in-depth rendering tutorial. So this is like just really basic. I didn't want to make this video too long or like outdrawn, because if I went into detail on how I did everything, this video would be like 3 hours and I don't have the energy for that. So once I'm done with the basic rendering, I will go in and add another overlay layer or multiply layer with the airbrush like I did at the start. And then I will outline some pieces of darker color, so basically just adding some kind of line art to it. And then I'll do my final edits, which is normally me just playing around with things until I'm satisfied with it. And yeah, that's basically my entire art process. This whole piece is done on the Artist 22 Plus by xppen. If you're interested in checking out this tablet or any of the other tablets that xppen offers, I'll have them linked in the description. Thank you again to xppen for sending me this tablet, and thank you so much for getting to this part of the video and for watching. If you have any questions about my process, I will answer in the comments, or I'll probably make another video if I realize like, hey, I didn't cover this. And yeah, so thank you so much, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!